In this episode of the Plant Pod, I sit down with Jack Appleton of Mr. Fothergills Seeds. Jack started his career at Webb's Garden Centres at the age of 15, where he worked on their tills and car park. He later moved on to their garden sundries department and then on to their leisure department, selling everything from barbecues to furniture. Jack left Webb's and became a territorial manager for Mr. Fothergills Seeds. This job takes him all over the country, and I couldn't be happier for him. I've known Jack for quite a few years, so having him on the podcast was a real pleasure. I can only imagine where Jack's future will take him in the horticultural industry. Jack, thank you for coming on to the Plant Pod. This is episode 3. Let's get into it. Jack, thank you for joining us.
No problem, mate. It's fine.
So let's start off straight away. What got you into horticulture?
I joined the garden centre trade when I was 15 years old, 16 years old. Started on a bank hour contract when I just left college. I was at college during the time I was working here on the weekends at Webb's, and then as soon as I joined this side of the industry, I realised how much I liked the industry, and I thought that I would commit everything I can to staying in the industry for as long as possible. And then one year became the year after, and the year after, and the year after, and before you know it, you're going into different areas, different departments, and I loved it even more. So I knew from a very early working age of 15, 16 that I would be in this industry for the rest of my career, and that's what got me into it. I mean, I had no family background with gardening. I mean, my grandparents have got nice gardens. They know a lot about gardening, but their jobs are completely different. Yeah. Brother's job, he likes gardening, but he like me, works within retail. No link to gardening throughout our family history, I think, for generations. And then I guess it depends what you like when you're growing up.
So it was just you got into it, and then you realised how much you enjoyed it. Yeah. And just wanted to continue. Yeah,
a lot of my friends would join a job and then leave and then go somewhere else and then go somewhere else. I have only ever had 2 jobs in my entire career, in nearly 10 years now, and both of them have been within the garden industry. So I didn't want to keep swapping jobs and trying to find my feet. I knew the second I came in here that I had a future in this industry. So that's when it all kicked off for me, really.
So how old was you when you come into the industry? 15?
15, yeah. It was back then you could only work a maximum of like 16 hours a week, so it was normally a Saturday and a Sunday. Yeah. And I turned 16 not long after, and I then managed to get, whilst during college, part-time work, where I was doing maybe a Monday, a Friday, Saturday, Sunday on the front of the house at the time. I started off probably late 15, just as I left high school going into college. Yeah. Obviously at 24 now, going 25, nearly 10 years within the same industry. It's been a good journey so far.
Who have you worked for in that 10
years? In this period, I've had 2 jobs, which is Webb's Garden Centres and then Mr. Fothergills more recently. But I did have a period of a few months in between when I was about 18, 19, only probably 3 or 4 months where I joined car sales because I had an opportunity to go there, and I just wanted to know for myself if I had made the right decision and I wasn't really good at something else. Yeah. I was actually good at car sales because it was sales, and that's what I love doing within the industry. But it was the wrong industry. It was the wrong, it was very pushy sales there, whereas gardening is very relaxed. So I knew after doing that for a few months, despite doing well, I knew that it wasn't what I wanted to do for the rest of my career. So I then came back to Webb's and then continued where I left off, really.
So why did you leave Webb's to go to Mr. Fothergills? What was the reason?
That's right. So it stems from what I just said about having 2 jobs and knowing I want to stay in this industry for as long as I can. All that stemmed from the belief that I will always be in the industry, but I believe to be successful within this industry, to be beneficial for the company, to be good with the customers, to be knowledgeable, you have to work on both sides to understand how it works. I put in the best part of 6-7 years here maybe a little bit longer if you include my RHS courses that I did and stuff that they sent me on. You know, towards the latter stage of that, I really got into the products, where they came from. I was then going to sell those products to the customers when they came into the store. Yeah. And then after a while, I wasn't looking for a job, but I had an opportunity to go to Fothergills, which was a fantastic opportunity for a big company and something which I knew that I'd be good at. And it's a very similar job. You're just selling seeds, but you're on the other side of the industry now. You're supplying the products to the customers, like Webbs, that then sell them to the consumers that come into the store every week.
Yeah.
So I now see it from the very beginning, from where the products are officially made, shipped out from abroad or wherever they come from, and then I see how the orders work, how the EPOS work, how the marketing works, how the printing works. So now I have sold the products to begin with, and now I'm working on selling the products to you as a business, and seeing how that product gets made from the get-go. So I now have seen the entire process from start to finish, and within that process done things like the POS, the marketing, all of the the sales data that you guys have in your tills. I now do that every week. So it's interesting because you see everything from the beginning, and even from the delivery drivers that bring the stuff here, how it's booked into the warehouse, things that I never used to see. So it's I think to be successful within this industry, in my belief, in my opinion, you have to work on both sides to really know what to do. And that was what I've done now, and so far it's going really well.
So you've gone from being the middleman working in the garden centre to being the first man who supplies the garden centre.
That's it. So I've gone from selling the products to the customers that come into the garden centres to selling the products to the businesses that sell them to the customers. Yeah. So it's a different role. It's a different way of selling, because obviously this stuff is, Webbs rely on me, or as do all of my accounts in the whole of the West Midlands and North Wales and the West Coast and the Channel Islands rely on me giving them the right stuff that sells. But nonetheless, you're still selling seeds, and you're still selling stuff we've always sold at Webbs. But maybe, if you're being specific, I sold the plants after they'd flowered, whereas now I'm doing it from the beginning. But yeah, it's all one big kind of chain effect, really, that you do.
Do you find it easier selling to a business than to a customer, as in like retail customer?
I think the best way to look at it from a sales perspective, which is my passion and my knowledge, and what I've always studied is sales, is customers, when they come into the garden centres or farm shops or nurseries, half the battle's already done because they're already coming in to buy it in the first place. All you've got to do is persuade them and put it in the basket and tell them the price. Yeah. And maybe at the very most you negotiate a price if it's maybe a bit underwatered or it's damaged. You do a little bit of discount on that. But in terms of sales, you don't really sell, in my opinion, on the retail side of things. You don't necessarily sell from scratch. You just sell to the customer who's already coming to buy that product in the first place. For example, where are your roses? They're over there. You talk to them about the roses, maybe the maintenance of that. But nonetheless, they might already know that question, and they might already only ask you one, which is what's the price, and how many have you got in stock, and then you put it in the basket. So selling, it's difficult on that side because it's very busy, and you might have that question 400-500 times a day on different plants, trees, and you might have to know a lot about that stuff. So that is always difficult sides to it. But my side of selling now is completely from scratch. So you talk about everything from the outers that you have, the range of seeds that you want to do, the trade prices, the delivery times. You do everything from scratch, even from signing the new account on the piece of paper. Getting new business. So it's similar to what I mentioned. You're working on both sides, but with what I do now, you're selling on both sides. You're selling the dream, if you like, for the customers, who obviously to me are the businesses. They're customers now. And then and sometimes I see myself switching between the two without realising. I'll be in one of my businesses sorting out the seed orders and tidying up, and then I'll have a customer come and ask me, thinking that I work there, how do you do this, how do you do that, and all of a sudden I'm selling the product to them from the business. But that's because I've done it before for so many years in my first job. So that's the...
So your role now What is it? Like your title, your role as?
So I'm a territory manager for Mr. Fothergills, which is, in all essence, you represent an area. You've got a couple of merchandisers that you look after, and you have to make sure that they're helping you out as well. So there's a little bit of managerial role involved there, but which is where the territory manager side of it comes in. But in terms of a territory, I do an area of supplying and ordering seeds from North Wales, so Snowdonia. I do all of the west coast, so Aberystwyth out to Machynlleth, then back through all the way through mid Wales, so kind of like Ludlow area, all of the West Midlands, so Wolverhampton, Birmingham, Redditch, Bromsgrove, Telford, I guess I'm a Telford, and then I also do Guernsey and Jersey, the two Channel Islands as well. So it's a big area, but my role as a territory manager is to supply seeds to like people like Webb's Garden Centres. I go into all of my businesses. Some are huge, like Blue Diamond, the groups that have, hundreds of seed stands, and then you go on to Dobbies that have loads of stores, and then sometimes I go to the little farm shops, which were one of our first customers. Betty and Pete, who had their farm shop in the 1970s, still the same size, hasn't progressed, but I still go to them. They might only do half a stand of seeds, but the reality is that you just you make sure your customers are okay, and you work as hard as you can to make sure that they've got seeds on the stands, the seeds are in good condition, they're tidy, they're happy mainly as customers, and your job really is helping customers sell the seeds, and you're there to ensure that you do a good job of that.
How important is it to have the stand looking good, the seed stand? How important is it to catch the eye of the customer?
Extremely. I mean, as you all know, and as I know from working for a garden centre for many years, customers shop with their eyes. They don't always necessarily come in looking for a specific product. They'll buy stuff based on how it looks on the stand. So like if you've got a bunch of bedding plants for sale outside, if they're like sometimes they'll do it by colour. You'll put all the colours together so it looks really nice on the eye, and then customers will be attracted to that because of how it looks, and then they think, oh, I can buy that. And so customers shop with their eyes. And when I go into a garden centre, if the seeds are, understandably, it's been a busy weekend, customers, they pick up the packet, put it back in the wrong place. They'll put cucumbers back with zinnias, and they'll put leeks back with radish. So your alphabetical stand, because it has to be alphabetical, because of the customers shop with their eyes. If they want to have an aubergine, they have to go to the A's, and if the A's are mixed in with the B's and the C's and the E's, then it makes it very difficult to shop. So stands have to be kept really tidy, which not all of that is my job. Obviously the customers and the garden centres will help do that for me, because I'll have guys that work in that department that tidy up for me, and that makes my job a lot easier. I do deal with more of the sales side of things, but it would be pretty selfish of me to go into the accounts and not tidy up for them whilst I'm in there, like I do here and like I do everywhere. So it is really important, and because seeds are specific. Some customers will want tomatoes, but they'll want a specific variety like Akron, but that might be sold out, and you've only got, the black opals in stock, so they won't buy it then. So you've always got to make sure that the stock is on there, it's tidy, it's in the right place, because you might have all these tomato seeds but on the rest of the stand somewhere because someone's picked up and put it in the wrong place. So it is really important, and it's the little details that make a big difference to financial equation. Is definitely down to customers shopping with their eyes, definitely.
Do you ever walk in and see the stand messed up and think, oh no, not again?
Yeah, always, especially when you do an area as big as mine. Sometimes my furthest point in north kind of Snowdonia is about 3 hours away off to the west coast. That's about 2.5. That's without traffic, which at the minute is pretty bad. So yeah, sometimes you're walking to an account and you've got to put in an extra half an hour of work to merchandise it, and then you realise actually I'm already an hour and a half behind on the day, and I can't quite make it to Snowdonia today, so I've got to let somebody else down. So from a personal job perspective, yes, it sometimes makes it difficult, but you're your own manager and you have to plan your routes and your week around allowing time to do that. It'd be pretty foolish if I didn't factor in time to merchandise. I'll always plan my routes. I've always got an hour spare. I can put in 10 minutes here or there tidying up. That is where it makes a difference. But yes, it does sometimes. Take the Michael when you walk into an account and some of the seed stands are blown over, or they've been left after a busy weekend, and then you've got to tidy them up. But that's part of the job. Not every job is perfect. There's always going to be jobs which you've got to do stuff which you don't want to do all the time, but yeah, you have to do it because that's retail. Retail is so fast paced. Some of the jobs that my friends that I know tell me it's a bit different outside of retail, but when you work in retail, whether it be for Primark, a clothes shop, or somewhere in the high street, it's very fast paced. If you don't tidy up and you don't keep consistent orders going in, then that's where there's a problem in doing that.
How hard is it to get new customers, as in like garden centres or farm shops? Like when you go in, obviously a lot of places are going to want deals and what can you do for us? So how hard is it to go in there and strike a new deal? It's
actually really funny because joining this job, and I mentioned it to begin with, start of the podcast, when I said that it's a very relaxed industry. Customers genuinely, it's a seed, and at the end of the day, you could buy a seed from a supermarket, you could buy seeds from Fothergills. A cucumber is a cucumber. You're not selling £1 million products. You're selling £90p, £1.20 products. So they are very affordable for customers, whether it be a small or a big business. That's why we have so many businesses now, because they are a very affordable seed. And it's not difficult to get new business. And to be honest with you, most of the time, in just over the year that I've been doing this job, all of my new accounts have come to me first, not me going to them. I've been driving in the car, or I've been at the NEC doing a show, and they've come onto the stand saying, I want to do your seeds next year, and take out people that I've already got on the stand. And that's the reality of it, is that it's a very straightforward product. As I said, a cucumber is a cucumber. I can't make that cucumber sound like it's the best cucumber in the world. It's a cucumber. Yeah. So you can't, like when I worked in the car industry, you got to make cars that are you sound like they're £50 million cars that people want to buy and invest in, but in reality it's a car. Yeah. And people want things for different reasons. So garden centres, all for the same reason. They've got loads of customers coming in every week that want to buy seeds. So it's not that difficult, and yes, people want deals. I mean, that's business. It'd be pretty weird if you walked into somewhere and you didn't get asked for a deal, because that's the job of a businessman, is to get the best price for stuff. But we do different ranges, and as I said, the seeds are very affordable. So maybe if you're talking about things that are a lot of money, it's different. But with seeds, it's not that difficult. I keep it simple. I do my 50%. So I do nice roundups. I don't do like the 24.53%. I just do simple math, and I've never had a problem with that. And the best thing is nobody's ever questioned it, because a lot of my accounts, when I came into the job, have already been with us for 30 years, possibly longer. They don't even care, long as I'm there and I help them fix, if there is a problem, I fix it for them. They don't question the price. The price is the price, because they trust the company. They buy and invest off Fothergills, off of Jack, me. They don't invest off the money. It's just, I am the face of Fothergills to them. So, it's all about building friendships. You don't really get money involved. Even with some of the accounts that I've been to recently, I talk to them about football and their history and their business, where they've come from, what they think about this. And at the end of the conversation, I was actually, I'll have those seeds, and if that's okay, yeah, sure, I'll get the seeds ordered for you. Then you're done. So you don't even sell the seeds. You sell yourself. You sell friendship and relationship building. That's the key to any good sales job, any salesperson.
I find that myself within this industry. It's all about networking. And everyone's so nice to you as well in the industry. I think because it's an industry that's not struggled, but to get young people in and get people working in the industry. Like, you don't really hear about apprenticeships in this industry. I know there are a lot out there, but they're not advertised enough. No,
definitely. I 100% agree with that. And by far one of the youngest reps that I'll see around. I look at other reps for different businesses and they're double my age. They might have been doing it a long time, but the reality is there aren't many young kids that even work for the garden centres. You walk into the plant areas or the leisure areas or anywhere, like even the restaurants, a lot of the staff are of an older age. They will already had their careers. Some of them just do it part time because they can. It's a bit of pocket money. So genuinely, you don't see many young kids. You do see them more now. I think it's got more accessible recently, especially since COVID. A lot of people have gotten into it. As I won't go into too much detail on that, but everyone knows how COVID was beneficial for the garden industry. We are the only industry that I think can survive a pandemic and do well at a pandemic. And it just goes to show that the industry will always be here. And I think people realise that, hence younger people getting involved. They see it as a sustainable, secure career. So it is getting better now, but you are correct. It's really hard to see younger people do well within the industry, which is also one of the reasons why it drives me, because I want to prove to people that it's a very profitable, very good industry to work in. Not seen as the typical kind of, relaxed, easy job, because it isn't.
Yeah, and I know earlier on we touched on shows at the NEC and other places. How important today to meet new people and connect with new people? I mean, you've got like Glee.
So I've been to Glee a couple of times. I'll probably go again this year, and I've been with other people as well. And Glee is obviously massive. You'll see a lot of new people on Glee, new businesses that are trying to get more business. They're upstarting, and that's always good to see as well. You're seeing people that have thought of a new product. It could be something little like a puzzle that they want to launch into people's gift areas, or could be a new type of cutlery. They found new brand, trying to get it into other people, and that's really helpful for them, because they'll see every single garden centre pretty much go to that business, and that's one way to get your name out there really well. With Fothergills, we're already where we are. We're one of the biggest seed suppliers, in Europe. We're doing extremely well. So I think what I find when we go to Glee, it's about seeing our current customers, any problems, just having a chat to them. That's touching base. That goes a long way. And then you might have a few new people that have just started a new farm shop, nursery somewhere in the middle of nowhere. All they do is stand the seeds. That's absolutely fine, perfect. But you'll see a mixture of different people there, from big businesses, and then from your tiny little upstart. Someone just retired from their job, trying to start off a new puzzle or a new kind of book. And goes from that. So it is really interesting to see how they really help. And even when I'm there, I go around to their stands and ask them a bit about the stuff, and it's interesting.
Yeah. Good to meet new people and see what new products are coming.
Yeah. As I said, it's always about relationship building. As I said, it's the most important thing to any job in sales, is to care and to be interested and invested in the customers. And that customer that's selling that new book could be the next biggest book author in the UK. So before you know it, you've got a very good friend there to have. So it's always important to keep in touch with people, whether they're big or small businesses. You've got to, like I said, I always see some of the smallest ones in my area, the tiny little farm shops that are only open 2 days a week between March and April. That's it. But you go and see them and you make sure they're okay. It goes a long way, because they'll talk to other people, and then they'll say, "Oh, this is a really good company, a really nice guy." Sales. I mean, I've learned loads since going into Fothergills, and I've got a good manager, Rich, who I owe everything to him. Really, he's given me a chance to do so well, and he has taught me so much. And I learned from the get-go with him that customer relationship building is the key. And you don't even sell the product, you just sell yourself, and then in doing that you sell the product. So it's really good industry to get to know people, definitely.
So back to seeds, what is the best seed? Like what sells the best? Is it different in different areas? Or when they put something on, I don't know, like Gardener's World, and then everyone flocks to get the seed for that, like the trends.
That's a usual one that we'll have, is magazines that get launched and sent out to the customers that are, given a discount on seeds or whatever, or off like a multi-buy. You'll actually find, because I do obviously all the major cities, as in I do like probably all the middle of Birmingham, Wolverhampton. Very, very kind of densely packed areas that have little gardens, just roads really, and some mostly flats and stuff. So you haven't got a garden. And then when you go up to North Wales, Snowdonia, you're dealing with people that have 100-acre farms, 200-acre farms, possibly more than 500 acres. Some of them have land. So yes, it's not significant amounts, but you'll see like wildflower seeds sell loads in around about the Welsh area because they've got so much farmland to use because they've got the space to do it. Whereas maybe when you go towards middle of Birmingham and you've got a lot of high-rise buildings and lesser garden space and fields, if any at all, then you'll see a lot of things like vertical gardening, like herbs, windowsill things sell quite well around there. But that's pretty much it. Seeds sell themselves. There's a very short window for selling seeds. Busiest months for us are definitely March, April, May and June. As soon as July hits, and well, normally it's the end of the summer then, but obviously it hasn't been recently. It's been 30, 40 degrees in August, but typically those few months there are the peak selling season, and then obviously the rest of it is flowering season. So I mean, for example, January, February, by far it's tomatoes. Tomatoes are the biggest seller because they're January and February sowers, and they are the first seed that sell for us as soon as the year gets going. And they're very easy to grow and they're very popular as well. And then as soon as almost the end of March comes, you click your fingers and then it's into things like cucumbers, lettuce and tomatoes stop. And you'll fizzle through a few of them, and then after the lettuce stops, it goes into things like radish, and then you go into herbs, and then it's other stuff. So there's only ever actually a couple of weeks in every part of the month that certain seeds sell, and that's why it's important for me to tidy up and know what people need, and to maybe bulk order, maybe put like 10s or 15s of the tomatoes on each peg, to make sure they've got the stock that sells then. Otherwise, they'll sell out of the few they've got on there now, and then they'll have nothing to sell. So you've always got to make sure that you maintain stock that sells, that give them time in the year. And like now, for example, it's a lot of cucumbers are going now, lettuce, obviously things like broad beans, runner beans, they're flying off the shelf now. April, their peak time, March, April for them. So seeds, it's seasonal, and it's always been seasonal. Customers decide when they're going to buy the stuff, not us. We don't tell the businesses when to sell them. You sell them all year round, and the customers will buy when they're ready to buy them. And it's about me making sure that I'm into those places and maintaining the orders again.
You got to make sure that they're there on the shelf for when the customer comes in.
Yeah, and they've got to make sure the stock's out as well, which typically on my area is really good. Most people don't leave the stock in the warehouse. Understandably, you might have people off sick or busy, and then there's reasons why, and you help them out, put the stock out if I need to. But most of the time, the stock goes out on the day it comes in, and it's there, and it's on for sale, and I'll go in again the week after, and they've already sold through most of that order, so then you can put another one in, and then another one, and another one, all the way through until June, July. And then you might slow down, because obviously you don't want to have loads of stock left for stock take. I mean, people have got to count through otherwise thousands of seed packets, so at least you try to make it a little bit easier for them by, in the winter months, selling through some of the stock maybe.
What about flowers? Flower-wise, what's the flower that everyone goes for?
Flower that everyone goes for, again, it's very seasonal. Wildflowers, as I mentioned, are big on my area. So wildflowers always sell. Things like cornflower, bellflower, yellow rattle, they always go really quick. Again, it's seasonal. Like now, you get a lot of sweet peas. Nasturtiums, sometimes the edible flowers go quite well. But again, it's very seasonal. You would have saw that probably pre-COVID, it was all about the image of the garden, and that's why flowers sold better. And veg wasn't actually that big. Obviously, it sold very well, but flowers and veg are very similar in terms of sales. Whereas after COVID, as everybody knows, again, I won't go into too much detail about it, but everyone knows how big COVID was for Grow Your Own, which was fantastic. I mean, everyone got into growing their own veg, as in millions of people potentially in the few months that we had a lockdown were doing gardening, doing veg. And all of a sudden veg became the next best thing, and flowers maybe slowed down a little bit, not in the summer because people wanted to look at their gardens and look at a nice garden, but and always that kind of saying that is next door's better in competition in lockdown, and I see the lawn as the carpet almost, and then the outside is all your decor and stuff. So flowers are really good still for an image. But in terms of veg, especially with the supermarket issues recently, little things like that, veg has just become so popular again now. And I said shit, it depends on the seasonality of the job. Next year it could be better than flowers, be better than veg. If all of a sudden, you know, we have a very, very long summer again, people might start buying flowers and, you know, doing flower gardens and wildflower gardens. But right now, in this current climate we're in, veg is by far much more popular than flowers at the moment. But as I said, it depends where you are. You know, when you go up towards Wales, it's constant wildflower meadows, so maybe it could be a little bit different up there, I don't know.
Yeah.
But it's a very, very, very seasonal job, it really is.
I know we touched on COVID. Obviously no one wants to really hear about that anymore. We was in it for so long. But do you think it changed the industry as a whole?
100,000,000%. You know, it couldn't have changed it any more. At the time, I didn't join Fothergills, and I was still at Webbs at the time. I was on lockdown. I was put on leave for about probably nearly 3 months, and I wasn't working. But it was mad. You know, it's never going to happen again, I don't think, in our entire lifetime. If in years and years and years to come, I can't see it ever happening again. One, because it can't, because I don't think we'd last as an economy if we did. We'd really struggle. We're struggling now, let alone, you know, with another pandemic for 3 or 4 months, with everyone having to shut. But in general, it was incredible how much gardening benefited off the back of that. I mean, like when I was working for Webbs, the online sales, because we were shut, but the online sales, as you would know, were through the roof. You were picking quadruple, triple the amount of lines per day, per hour, let alone.
It was crazy.
It was, and so that at that point cemented to me then that I'd made the right decision to stay in the industry, because it will always be here. You know, if, as I said,